All right, guys, we have started off the Cancun Challenge, undefeated, huge tournament, Cancun Challenge, the non-bracketed game. We just won. I know you guys have been looking forward all year long for the Cancun non-bracketed game challenge, but we just beat Winthrop by 24 points, 89-65. It was a big time win, big time team effort. I know you guys have been waiting. We had Ryan Norman on the first podcast, Ben on the second, but your main guy, Matt, is back. Matt and Jackson, the dynamic duo, are back. Matt, welcome.
3-0, man. Ben and Ryan did a great job. I listened to the episodes the last couple of days. I watched the first game, eventually watched the second game back. Had a work trip last week. Super excited to watch this team. Tonight, they kind of put a lot of the pieces together. And we saw a lot of, I think this was the first game you saw the glimpses of, okay, like here's the path for this team being really good and tough to beat.
Big time bounce back from a struggle last week. I mean, we were talking about how it was fun to talk about a bad win. This is going to be fun to talk about a great win.
Yep.
And all this talk about depth and how many players we have. Man, tonight was ridiculous how many players we had. Last week we had 4 different guys that we were complaining about, saying, man, we got let down by not 1 or 2 guys. We got like 4 different guys that really felt like they had bad games. There's not a single guy in this team that had a bad game. Every single one of them had a moment that was really nice. And it just kind of, you looked up and you were like, we haven't seen this guy in a while. They come in, they play great. There are so many guys. It's getting weird. I hope we can get to see the minutes before this podcast is out. I think you might already had over here. It was just so many guys playing well. I mean, we can get an MVP or we could talk about the big storyline. Which one do you want to talk about?
Let's do MVP.
All right, let's do MVP. We always start off that way. I think one guy, as much as everybody played great and everybody played pretty evenly good, a lot of it, I mean, we had 3 different double-digit guys here, but 2 guys stood up, but one just was an absolute problem. They had no answer for him. Humongous bounce back, just like the team. He had an amazing comeback. Jonai Broom, man, the stat line was incredible. 18 points, 5 blocks, 2 steals, 13 rebounds. Let me say that again. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 5 blocks, 2 steals. And he got that probably like halfway through the second quarter. I think those 5 blocks may have all been in the first half. So
By the
it was
way,
a really incredible night for him.
in 20 minutes, he played half the game. I mean, so in the NBA, there's these per 36 numbers, and in college, you can. I mean, he was on pace to have 36 and 26 tonight if he played the whole game.
We had stretch minutes, and Cardwell had a lot of minutes and played well too. And Broom did this all so efficiently; it was crazy.
So efficient. He played bully ball. He finished better around the rim. He looked more bouncy. That's the word that came to mind for me. He looked a little more explosive. But man, we've been on it. We celebrated the block party last year. The block party is alive and well. Y'all been talking about it last week. Broom just erased so many shots. It was really amazing. What do we have?
That man, not only is he blocking the balls, he's jumping over people, completely playing leapfrog with the other team, and that's affecting the shot. That got to travel of it. He got 5 blocks all within the first half, I believe, all really quickly too at the beginning. And I was looking for triple double watch for a minute there going into the second half. But it wasn't just the blocks; he just impacts everything around the goal.
And how about this? I mean, you do all that, you have all those blocks, all those contested shots, 2 fouls. I mean, just incredible. Did a great job like Kessler did last year with body control and knowing what to do. This was the Janai Broom game that I think I was waiting for. You saw the offensive skills, you saw some of the post moves. The thing I love about Broom, he plays with a toughness and a swagger that really fits this group that I wasn't sure. I just hadn't watched him play much. And he's not afraid to talk. He's not afraid to bring the energy. And you pair him and Cardwell at that center position. We are just in such a good place there. Really encouraging. I know it's a non-conference game. I know it's Winthrop, but like to see him have this ceiling, like I thought he did, was really encouraging.
Poor Dylan Cardwell, man. Dylan Cardwell had 4 blocks and played amazing defense, just like he did last year, and still ended up second on the team in blocks after a guy has 5 in front of him. It's going to be another year like that for Cardwell, where his defense, I really feel like Cardwell's defense is taking another step up. his blocks are getting really efficient. We saw a really great like follow block behind one of their smaller guards, which is another amazing part about Cardwell that's really underrated. Is we watch the guards switch onto Cardwell and have this look of like, oh, I got the big guy on me, time to make a move. And no, Cardwell stays. I get excited when Cardwell's on a guard. It like freaks them out how quick his feet are, and then he'll get this follow blocks. It'll look just like Walker last year. So man, Joe Nye,
well,
he's up there.
Cardwell's better. He's better on offense. He's had some great passes. He's fit. He had a post up dunk on someone tonight.
Great move. He had a great move on offense,
and he kind of surprised everyone because he never does that. But I mean, he's developed. He looks in great shape. And here's the difference from last year, though. He's going to play more minutes. You know, Kessler was this unicorn that played 28 to 32 minutes a game efficiently and effectively. Broom's not going to do that. I don't think we're going to push him to play that much. And because Cardwell's so valuable, I think he has to be on the floor. He would have played the other 20 minutes, but he got nicked up on the side of his head. He was bleeding. He had to get some medical care.
We got to see stretch minutes because this game was out of hand.
Yep.
Cardwell got bloody. Broom had already been playing a decent amount of minutes before that, so they played stretch for a while. And we're not going to see a lot of stretch the rest of the year. He had a good time stretch.
Let's move on from the centers, but Janai Broom is clearly the MVP, and the only thing we'll say about stretch, stretch, it's great to have a third center with 5 extra fouls in case we need it, and that's nice.
We can talk about the second guy because it's going to be like this all year. It feels like right now with Wendell, and maybe this changes when we play some bigger, faster teams. But Wendell looks better than he did last year. He looks faster, more control. He's got some great drives this last couple. Like his body control looked amazing on some of those drives where the shot clock's winding down. He's dribbling in between everybody and gets some up there and goes in. His 3-point shooting was really great tonight. 2 nights in a row where his 3-point shooting was really great. 4 of 6 from 3 last week or last game. He had a good game too. I can't remember exactly the numbers, but he ended up with 16 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 6 of 10 from the field, 60% from the field, 4 of 6 from 3. It was really a great night from him. And it's going to be Wendell and whoever else has a great night, I feel like, for MVP discussion almost every game now.
Well, Wendell's going to be involved. And you make a great point. We've got to table a lot of this till we get, especially with this non-conference schedule, you know, let's see how Wendell is 5 games into SEC play. Now, having said that, he looks so much more comfortable. He is confident. I feel like last year maybe he was trying to make an impression with his play. And so far this year through 3 games, he is completely under control. He's not forcing things nearly as much. And to me, 2 big things from his game tonight that warrant MVP discussion. 0 turnovers, which for a Bruce Pearl point guard handling the ball, he only played 22 minutes, which is great. But he had that. And then 16 points on 10 shots. So efficient. Sometimes you'll look at these box scores last year and it's like, oh, Wendell Green shot 15 times or 17 times and he had 13 points. Super efficient, letting the game come to him. The passing. How about the push ahead passes when he gets the ball off a defensive rebound? He is looking. He got us 4 easy points early, and he hit a 3 early, I believe, to kind of set the tone. I did want to mention you're going to win a lot of games if you go on a 12-0 run in the first couple minutes of the first half and a 10-0 run to start the second half.
They did. He checked timeout immediately at a half. It was amazing. It was really great to see.
Yeah. So Wendell, y'all were stealing my stir the drink thing. I think
that's going to be what we're talking. Hey, we're going to get these words going on here. Yeah.
We're seeing what happens with all these weapons when you've got a guy like Wendell Green who is so comfortable. Now he's going to have to do it for an entire year in SEC play against bigger, athletic NBA bound guards. He's going to have to do that. But in terms of a place to start, he's fantastic.
I think you hit the nail on the head on Wendell letting the game come to him a little more. I think we're seeing a couple players like that do that. We saw Allen Flanagan do that last game. We saw Chris Moore do that last game. I think that's the biggest thing. And it's not always something that you can really put on the stat sheet or put your finger on. It just feels like he's not taking desperate shots when things get tough or anything like that. They're all within himself and within the game. And you're right. Again, we'll see from SEC play when things get a little tougher if he starts taking some more anxious threes and anxious drives with his head down. But right now, everybody looks like the game's coming to them a bit.
Well, and didn't you love the pace tonight? Tonight felt like one of those classic Bruce Pearl deep teams. Like, I thought we pushed the pace well. There's always going to be some stretches where the offense is a little stagnant. And that's where, honestly, Bruce's guards sometimes get stuck with the ball at the end of the shot clock and they have to make something happen. I thought the pace was just terrific. I thought we wore them down. We have the athletes, we have the bodies. We're officially 11 deep with Chance back. And it's a tough. Auburn's not going to be the prettiest team you watch this year in college basketball. But if you just flip it, I know we see some of the flaws and the weaknesses, but just look at this roster and imagine like you're a team of 7 or 8 guys playing for Missouri, and you're going to come play this team. Like it's got to be a physically daunting task, especially in Neville Arena.
Yeah, I think we can finally put the crown on Jonai Broome for the MVP here and give him his first MVP of the year. And I think it will not be his last MVP. I think we'll be seeing a bunch of that, not only from the scoring perspective, which is a lot of fun, but we're seeing it from the defense perspective. So he's got a couple ways he can win that award. If you want to get into maybe, I'm going to go ahead and get into it because I'm excited. I'm excited to finally see Chance Westry on the court. I was about ready to skip MVP to talk about it. He didn't blow up the stat sheet necessarily or anything. 5 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds. But just by watching it, you have to go back and watch it because you can tell the minute he got in the game, he knew he was the best player on the court. And he took that ball immediately in a drive, picked the other team, forced a foul on the other team, got the ball back, drove again, got an and one situation where he hit his free throw, put another foul on the other team. It's just crazy. You see Johan and Chuma and Okoro, guys that are talented, but they've been tentative and not sure exactly where they need to be, or maybe they're afraid to dribble a bit or something. Chance was not afraid at all about anybody out there. Super cool to see. A lot of it's just by looking. He ended up picking up a couple fouls quickly near the end of the second half, so he played less. And there's just a lot of guys on the team. He didn't hit a 3, which I think the big things we've been wanting him to cover. We want him to play backup point guard so that we don't have to play Trey necessarily behind him, which we can get into Trey. We want him to be able to play that the big guard position where he can drive the ball and be 6'6" and have handles. That was great. He the handles for a guy that size were really impressive. I was even around the goal, everywhere he was, just looked like window-sized handles with a 6'6" guy. Really impressive. The third thing we wanted to do is hit threes. He did hit the threes tonight. Matt can get into that. We both think they looked good. They just didn't go in necessarily. Only shot 2 of them of 2. But 2 of the 3 tonight were confirmed, in my opinion, that this guy is going to have some hype and be good.
I've been on this train for a while. I don't follow basketball recruiting as well as a lot of other people do. But it just became clear in the process that this Chance Westry guy was like a perfect fit for an Auburn program that tends to be a little underrated, under the radar. He was right on that 4 or 5 star edge of where he was ranked. It's just like people, I don't know. It's weird. Like Johan was ranked higher, but Chance is a top 30, top 40 national recruit. And when you look at the weaknesses of this team, and you saw it in Israel, man, we don't have another guy like that. And it's not even close. His skill set is so special. How about the look? He came in at point guard first to spell Wendell in the first half. You're dealing with Wendell Green Jr., right? And then coming off the bench 4 or 5 minutes into the game comes this 6'6" NBA athlete coming in to run the point and doing it well. Like the offense flows okay. Now look, he's been out for 4 weeks. He probably wasn't in full basketball shape tonight. He fell asleep a little bit on defense. Some of the rotations were a little weak, but all the pieces are there. The clay's there. He doesn't have to be spectacular for this team right now. He can grow into it. And you mentioned it, the versatility. He played all 3 positions, 1, 2, and 3 tonight, and looked good. And he is going to look the part wherever you put him. I think his shot, you and I went to Auburn last year, and we watched Devin Cambridge's shot and Flanagan's shot in person, and it's not the best looking shot. From what I saw, Chance looked healthy tonight. He looked athletic. He looked like the basketball player with the NBA potential. And his shot looks fine. I think it's a good-looking shot for a true freshman. And hopefully he can knock some of those down because like we saw, and we're going to track it all year, we're probably going to sound beating a dead horse. If this Auburn team hits some threes when they're open, they are going to be a completely different animal to deal with.
Chance, I'm going to put the nickname now. Maybe it changes. Maybe he does something different. He's going to be our Swiss Army knife. Yep. If we have a team that's really in Wendell's space. He has big guards, can trap Wendell, and he's getting a little frantic. He can't get the passes out, can't get the offense out. We put Chance playing heavy point guard minutes, then maybe move Wendell over to 2 a bit, maybe play a little bit of both. You have a night where we can't seem to drive without playing in a Chris Moore or whoever else. KD can't seem to get a drive in there. That's when he can go to make a drive from the 2 position, the 3 position. Same with the threes. We're hoping we're going to watch that when things aren't going down from the 3 position or the 3-pointers, you put them in the 3 position, have them in the corner to hit some threes. I think he's just going to be, hopefully, you're afraid if all 3 of those go wrong, he can't cover all 3. You kind of put a bet that 2 out of the 3 can go right for us almost every night. And he can fill the 3rd. And that's kind of what we're betting on. If we can do that, as long as we can get the rest of the team to contribute, as long as Wendell's not getting flashed, and Alan Flannery can make a couple of drives, then hey, we got our 2, so hopefully he can just Swiss Army knife into all those positions, and that's what we're kind of like hoping and praying for.
Well, and we know just from experience, there's going to be guys get nicked up, have an injury here, and the great part about having a guy like that, and then you combine that with Jalen and maybe even Johan being able to play center, like anybody could kind of have to miss a few games here, and you just move somebody, and you still 2 deep, 10 deep at as a team, 2 deep at every position. So you're right. He is the only player I've ever seen in Bruce's offense that has the versatility to do what he's going to do this year. And I think people need to kind of that's a special thing. Think about all the great Auburn players we've had. How many of them could run the point and play both wing spots? And probably I think Chance is going to do great this year. Like I don't know who else that comparison would be. So
I think the closest thing that it's reminding me of the last time we've had a guy like this is Samir Dowdy, and Samir Dowdy was smaller than Chance Westry, but he also had probably better handles, better 3-point shooting, and was ready to go by his senior year. I mean, this guy's a freshman. Maybe if he got to play as long as Samir Dowdy did, he'd be there. I'm afraid, just from looking eye test tonight, we will not be getting him his senior year. This might be it for him just from looks, and I hate when you lose a guy that maybe doesn't look amazing in college, but just has the intangibles, and the NBA is going to pick him up just by looking. I'm afraid that no matter what happens, Chance will get picked up just from the 6'6", has handles, can shoot decently, so enjoy.
Well, how about if we're bragging about Chance? The thing that's always impressed me about him, everything I've ever seen, everything I've watched, I know it's early, it's not a ton. I think he's calm, he's poised, he's a good teammate, he shares the ball extremely well. He has great intangibles for a new freshman player. And I think if you just watch the little things he does.
His passing was really impressive. He had some really good vision.
Yeah. And so you see, Bruce, again, always does such a great job at telling us things before the season that we just don't know. And when he came out and said, I don't know if the season started tomorrow, Chance he would start at one of the 3 spots. I just don't know which one it would be. And it's that's unique when we have so many returning guards and forwards.
That'll be super interesting to watch. I mean, I was watching it tonight with the minutes, because just by putting them back in, people's minutes started getting a little squirrely. We kind of felt after 2 games, we knew a little bit of who was coming in where, and then all of a sudden he comes in and Cardwell gets hurt. And then all of a sudden we're playing this huge rotations. It was hard to know when someone was going to come back in again. But before we get head over heels with Chance and look dumb in a couple weeks or something, let's move on to 3-point shooting. We played way better tonight, 39% from 3-point shooting. You really felt it tonight, which was great. Wendell Green led the way, 4 of 6. Zepp had a good bounce back, 2 of 4. Hit open 3 when he really needed to. I think he might have started missing 3 in a row maybe, or something like that. I felt like I was like, uh-oh, Zepp's not hitting them again. He just needs to hit those open ones. He doesn't have to make a play, just hit the open 3s. 2 of 4. Good job, Zepp. Bounced back a little bit there. Got 8 points total, which was good. KD hit 1 of 3. Man, KD's had 2 quiet nights in a row, but thank God KD pulling back and knowing when he's having a quiet night not to lose loudly. And we'll see where he fits in these rotations. I feel like tonight he lost a lot of minutes. He played a ton of minutes last year.
Yep.
Flanagan, 1 of 2. Great for Flanagan again to hit another 3. Johan, 1 of 4. I really do think Johan is going to be a guy that can hit 3s for us, and I hope we play him more. He played 17 minutes. So did Chance. Chance was on limited minutes. Johan was on limited minutes. I know Jalen's kind of in the way. We need Jalen to be good too. I just want to see more minutes out of Johan because we're going to need him to be peaking by SEC play, or need him to at least be like ready to go and feel comfortable by SEC play. And he needs more minutes, honestly. I was ready to say that before the game even tonight, and he played more tonight, but a lot of it was trash minutes down the stretch. I want him. We got to be investing in him. I know that's tough when we need Jalen to be good too, and he deserves all the minutes he gets. But sometimes you got to recognize, like, this guy is the future. We need him to be picking up minutes again this year.
Well, yeah, and I think they know that. But I think it's also pretty clear from the first 2 games that he's just not quite there. You see all the tools. Great to see him hit a corner 3. We have a great offensive action that he's going to have that 3 every time we run it, because they have to defend the paint with the point guard coming down the middle, and him at that size, he's going to have that shot all year. I thought he looked the best he's looked so far tonight. The split was Jalen 23, Johan 17. I hear what you're saying, because Johan finished it. You're right, and they're sticking. I think it's interesting. They're sticking to that starting lineup of Wendell, Zepp, Chris Moore, Jalen Williams, and Janai Broom. And that's not that it matters. It really doesn't. But like we've talked about, Bruce has kind of been a pretty consistent starting lineup guy. And you kind of assume Flanagan will start at some point, and you kind of assume maybe Chance will start ahead of Zepp.
They've got easy out with the Chance thing. They got to do this lineup with Chris Moore and give him his deserved, kind of minutes or whatever. Then Chance could come in and play anything he wants to. Sorry, I'm getting distracted over here with Michigan State, Kentucky, just about to go to double overtime potentially. So I keep losing my track of thought here. You have to go to double overtime. So sorry, I know I hate when other podcasters do that, but I couldn't help myself.
We're rooting against Kentucky for sure. Yeah. So you guys can rest assured we're on your side on the fan podcast here.
We'll just see if Chance, Allen, and Chris Moore, how that shakes out there. And you're right, with Zepp too, that could shake out in an interesting way. And it really gives him this chance. We asked Bruce on the podcast, we asked him about starting lineups, and he sticks with his starting lineups every single year. And it's really hard to get him to change his starting lineups, or at least it feels that way. It doesn't feel like it's, you're never going to really have a surprise going into the game almost ever. But yet when we asked him about it, he didn't act like that was a thing. He didn't act like that was like a conscious decision. Same with heat check timeout. Sometimes these things we've stuck with, and you kind of see a trend. Don't necessarily that's not necessarily how his brain works. And so it's interesting. I don't know, we'll see if this starting lineup changes, if maybe it's another one of those unconscious, he just ends up sticking with his guys.
Well, sometimes the minutes tell you the story. And we get so caught up in starting lineups when really finishing lineups are the most important thing. We haven't really seen this Auburn team in a last minute, game yet. So we aren't totally sure. But Trey Donaldson and Chris Moore played 12 minutes, and they were somewhat significantly the lowest out of the 11-man rotation. So even though Chris is starting,
Flanagan had 20. So even though he didn't start, he got significantly more minutes than Chris Moore. Did Chris get hit or hurt or anything? For some reason, okay.
And the other thing I would point out, Chris started the game, and Flanagan started the second half with the starting group.
Oh.
So, and look, I think that's probably been planned. I think they feel like Chris deserves it. He's clearly a leader on this team in the locker room, and he's played better. I mean, he's a solid contributor in this rotation, and I'm glad to have him. He's a tough guy.
Really nice to see him confidently hit the open 3. That's a huge deal for us right now, and we're so desperate for it. And for a team leader like Allen Flanagan, a senior, to hit those, that's really huge.
Did y'all? So I didn't. Obviously, you lost the hour podcast last game. Did y'all rave about that dunk he had last game? He dunked all over that dude.
I don't know if we did, now that I think about it.
He posterized somebody, and it was one of the best dunks I've seen an Auburn player have. I mean, it was spectacular.
I love the aggressiveness of that. I thought Chance had an opportunity or two to do that tonight too, where I'm just don't get tentative with it. Throw that thing down. You'll probably get a foul call half the time. I guess there's some reasons you might think there'd be an injury there or something. I like the aggressiveness from an athletic guy like that.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on all the rotations. This is definitely the most fun year if you're a roster nerd and you like me and you want to see what we're going to do. We have so many options, so many weapons. We're going to keep saying it. I think that's the distinguishing characteristic of this team. It's going to have to be great defense, and I thought our energy level defensively was fantastic from the jump. And then if you have great energy, you defend, you push the pace, you get easy baskets when you can. Wendell doing a great job looking ahead, pass aheads, easy buckets, so we don't have to get stuck in the half court. You combine all that with just need a couple guys to hit some open shots. this team will be hard to beat. And I think they can compete with a lot of really good teams around the country if that happens. And I'm glad to see so far the defense is the bedrock of what we're building on, because it's good. And we have the athletes to be really good on defense.
Here's a hot take. I don't think it's that hot even, but I think it's something we might need to be thinking about when we keep talking about these huge rotations and things. It's going to shrink. And I think two of these players that are in our rotation will just straight up not be playing at all by the end of the year. The last like 5 to 7 games, two of these guys are just not even going to see minutes at all. Who do you think I'm picking?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to say one.
You say one? All right. Who?
I think Trey is probably the guy that isn't going to play as much or at all once we get to SEC play. And it's not – Trey's been, I think, better than people thought. Trey's impressed. I love him as a third point guard on this team. And I think if Chance were to not be able to do that, I love having Trey as a backup point guard. Having said that, I just think Bruce loves the depth on this team so much. I don't think he's going to go shorter than 10. I really don't think the road – you might see more – 5 or 6 or 7 guys might separate and get more minutes. But I think he's going to play 10. I really do.
You think Chris Moore is going to play 10 minutes a game? Still at the very
Absolutely.
end?
Absolutely.
Wow. I disagree. I think we can track that. I think by the end of the year, I think we're going to get midway through SEC play, have all this big grand talk about playing huge rotations, and we'll still play bigger rotations than most people. But that's when we're really going to start seeing these teams that have more talented players than us can stay out there for 30 minutes, and our rotations just don't wear them down. Or they do, but it just doesn't wear them down in time when we're struggling with shooting and having a hard time. Which like, all right, we cannot handle having Chris Moore do nothing on offense. We have to keep Chance out there an extra 5 or 10, or we have to keep somebody else out there an extra 5 or 10. And we just look up. Yeah, it's just how it is. It's just how it is every year. The rosters always shrink. Come March Madness, the roster shrink.
No, it doesn't.
Like crazy. A lot of teams do. A lot of teams start playing their starters like almost immediately.
Who's our coach? Who's our coach?
Bruce Pearl, but still, even him, he shrinks every year a little bit.
No.
Right.
Like the one thing he's different than everybody, because you're right. Most teams, when you get to March, are playing 7 or 8 guys. And he has said in every interview since Kingdom Come and every time I've ever watched him in the tournament, he is at least going to play 8 or 9. I mean, it's not even a question. I think with this roster, Chris Moore might be our best perimeter defender, especially against big guards. Like, I just think there's no way in my mind he doesn't play a role. Now, the path would be you're going to exclusively play Chance at the 3 with Flanagan, but I just don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Chance is way more valuable as a backup point guard and a swing guy across foul trouble, across injuries. I think we're going to use him in a lot of creative ways. So we'll see. Run the tape back in a few months. We'll see.
This will be So it was a hot take for Matt, at least I think. So we'll be watching and see if Chris Moore's playing down the stretch. Where you want to go next? Any stat that's sticking out to you?
Yeah, I got 3. Y'all did a great job talking about the turnover problem, the sloppiness. 8 turnovers in any game against a college team is great. I wish we would have forced more than 11, but it felt like our defense was really solid. We scrambled them a lot. Winthrop did a pretty good job to only turn it over 11 times. So that's big. Real quick on Winthrop too. They've been in the NCAA tournament 2 of the last 3 years, and they definitely have a chance this year to be in the tournament and win their conference. So again, another great scheduling move. This is probably a better win than
that's why they put them in the Cancun Challenge, my man. They're putting the best of the best in this Cancun Challenge.
How about and it felt like we gave up a lot of offensive rebounds early, but winning rebounds by 20 is massive. I mean, we killed them on the glass. Broom had a lot to do with that, but that's huge. And then fast break points, 17-3, getting out early offense. Don't get stagnant. Get up court. Get the ball moving and play confident. I think tonight was the first time I saw Auburn look like a Bruce Pearl, push the pace, shoot confidently when you're open. You know what I mean? Didn't you feel like that? It felt like we were a little more in our identity for the first time this year of what we usually look like.
Yeah, no, it felt like part of this is playing a team that's just you've outclassed and down the stretch too when you're already up 10-20. There's nobody that's feeling too much pressure on them or seizing up at all. So it was just nice to see us get back on a run. Classic Auburn arena, getting playing suffocating defense that turns into fast breaks, and you start hitting a couple of those, get the crowd going, get Cardwell going, get KD going, have the heat check timeouts. I mean, that's what you want to do and during at a conference. We saw it last year. We were an amazing team. So of course we saw it last year, but we see it a lot at these beginning of the years in Auburn or Neville Arena. Sorry, they even said that on the broadcast. The Neville's paid a lot of money for us to call it Neville Arena, and I appreciate that they did that. And so yeah, we get it going in there, and you worry when better teams in a way, like if that really translates, if we could really get the running going. So it'll be something to watch.
Well,
I was looking up. Good.
I would just say last thing. Auburn got out to like a 12-2 start, but then I think they got within 4 or 5. Kind of Auburn hit a lull offensively. Well, from the last half of the first half of the second half, we outscored them by 30. I mean, it was a real dominant performance. So yeah, I felt like our best offense wasn't when we were blowing them out. It was what led to the blowout. Like we really hit a stride there in the middle kind of part of the game. And then I thought we got sloppy and lazy and a lot of bad things when we got up 35. So I kind of had a little different take on that.
It's very upsetting when we let that 35 point. I was going for 40. They shrunk it back to 25. Very upsetting. I was looking at blocks again. We had 11 to their. It doesn't matter. We had 11, which is amazing. I was trying to figure out like what the average was for the best team last year to see if we're really on pace for that. Haven't found that yet. I'll look it up. But we're supposedly, according to this list, second in the country behind Middle Tennessee State right now at 8.5 blocks per game. I don't know if that counts tonight's game or it's just the first two. But we'll be watching that, guys. That is going to be my thing for the rest of the year. It was my thing before the season. It was the thing coming in when we got Jonai Broom off the transfer portal. We're having a block party. It's super fun out here. Let's get that going. Let's put that out there into the world. Of like, if you want to see some amazing defense and some amazing blocks, tune into Auburn. If you're a guy that loves to block the ball, come to Auburn. This is a block party. Get it going in the student section. I hope there's enough people listening to this that we can get that going. I want people to know that we're having fun out there. We're throwing a block party.
I love it. It's huge. And what it does is it lets Auburn play defensively the way they want to be aggressive on the perimeter, to let KD kind of do his thing, to let Wendell take some risks and try to get the ball knocked out of there because they trust. Cardwell had a funny line in his interview this week where they asked it like, well, how are you getting so many block shots? He said, well, my guards keep letting their guys drive past them and I have to clean it up, which is true. And I think they got used to Kessler last year. And we were on this. If you listen to this podcast last year, we were on how well Cardwell was doing, like with his limited minutes in blocks and how great he was defensively. So this is no surprise for us.
He top 5 in the SEC all year long. Walker Kessler got all the love, but every time we looked up, we would check it almost every single game in the SEC to check that Cardwell was still number 5 in the SEC. To have 2 guys in the top 5, and Cardwell's playing such limited minutes last year behind Kessler. He's playing more minutes this year. We might have the Bash brothers, the Block brothers. We might have 1 and 2 in the SEC this year. Just watch out.
I don't think I've ever seen us have 11 players with 4 points or more. Everybody had multiple baskets. Everybody was contributing. I know it's Winthrop, but if you're just looking for balance scoring, only 3 guys in double figures, and really Johan snuck in there kind of at the end of the game when things were kind of done. Just great to see everybody able and willing to score. I think that's got to be Auburn's calling card this year against some of these 5-star recruits. Auburn's going to play some teams in the SEC that have a lot of great elite talent. But can our 10, Bruce always says, can our 10 be better than your 5 or 6? And that's the bet that he always has made as a coach. And I think this year's team really exemplifies that. But the question is going to be shooting. Did you feel like Auburn got good shots tonight and they made some? Like, what do you attribute the better shooting tonight to anything after watching the first 3 games?
Sorry to quickly go back real quick, because I'm looking up stats as we go. And we did the hour-long show with Ben last week, and if you felt like that show was more distilled, it's because all this looking up and like interrupting each other got all distilled out. But Dylan Cardwell, according to CBS, is leading the nation with blocks, tied for first, of course, but maybe only through 2 games. But just super fun to watch that. I'm just going to be watching all year. And Yuri Collins is leading the nation number 1 in assists. And we will be playing Yuri Collins in St. Louis, and I wish we figured out how to get him up the transfer portal.
Might be ranked, right? They might be ranked.
Yes, they might be ranked. Might have a top 25 matchup in Neville Arena, which would be super fun after like talking about how we had a slightly smaller or slightly less aggressive at a conference schedule. But for shooting, it just feels like it came to us. Feels like these guys put the 3s down. Jonai Broom had a lot more efficient night. That was huge. Just really like amazing what we're doing around the basket right now, putting a lot of stuff back to having somebody like Trey Orr that just cleans things up, puts those twos in. It's a lot of fun. Wendell, when the shot clock got like close to the buzzer, those things, it felt like a couple times it felt like, we're getting close to them. We're just going to jack up a stupid three, or at least we did last year and we've done in previous years. This time, Wendell just went out there and made it happen. It's really impressive. I don't know if it'll happen to SEC play or not, but it happened this game, and his body control was crazy. He had at least one or two baskets that just was like, wow, he put that there. How did he do that?
I don't know if you noticed, but man, Johan was beating people down the floor all night when he was playing. Like, he either has great hustle or incredible athleticism or both. And he
both,
and we were finding him. We had a few, push ahead passes, and he caught the ball with soft hands, finished at the rim. I love to see that for a young guy. Like, he's doing some of those little things as a big guy. If you can outrun your big guy who's guarding you and get some early offense, like Auburn needs to get as much easy offense as we can get this year. So I'm actually willing to let Wendell and the guard, KD, push the ball and take some risks and get into our kind of positive, aggressive energy. And if we turn it over a few times, hopefully we're going to turn the teams over 15 to 20 times a game. Like that, our defense should be that. So I'm willing with this roster for them to be more aggressive and take some of those risks to get easy buckets, because we need all the easy buckets we can get.
Johan looks uber athletic. He looks like a more athletic version of Anthony McLemore, in my opinion. And I think better handles probably than Anthony McLemore. He even looks like physically looks like him. I think he might be an inch shorter or something like that, but he's crazy athletic. I'll be curious if he can get his handles together a little bit. Curious if he can get his 3-pointers together. He also looks like a guy that would be perfect for a lob, but we've not thrown him many lobs yet. We haven't thrown many guys on this team at all many lobs, but I think he's one of those guys that could be like a Cambridge last year that comes out of nowhere and just dunks it on some people. And I'm curious if we can get that chemistry together with him. It looked like Chance and Johan have a little chemistry. I wonder if it's like a rotational thing or freshman guys hanging out together or what, but it felt like they had some interesting chemistry.
Two great ball players is what that is. That's two NBA potential guys. So great win. I think so I went to got free tickets to Tennessee, Colorado to watch unranked Colorado beat Tennessee in Nashville on Sunday. The story around college basketball: Florida lost to Florida Atlantic, Florida State lost to somebody, TCU is a ranked team that lost to like the 361st team in Ken Palm at home.
Florida State lost to Stetson's going on a run. They beat somebody else to another P5 team.
So, I saw North Carolina's number 1 in the country. They were up 4 at home at halftime to Gardner-Webb tonight. So, and Winthrop might be a tournament team. So I know we're homers and we're trying to but this is a good win. I mean, anytime you win like this and get up 34 in a basketball game this year, you need to enjoy it. And we were talking before we came on, just it's nice to after you kind of built that double-digit lead and you felt comfortable with what Auburn was doing on both ends of the floor, now you're just watching your players play and seeing the chemistry and seeing what happens. It's a fun way to watch a game.
It's not just down major teams either. You named number 19 TCU went down to Northwestern State or whatever they were ranked by AP. They were even better than that. I think they were 13 or something. And Tennessee was also ranked higher than us, and they lost to Colorado. And Colorado had lost to Grambling the game before. Grambling, the HBCU school. Temple beat number 17 Villanova. Southern Illinois beat Oklahoma State. Going down all these, UC Irvine beat number 25 Oregon. Teams are going down. It's been pretty wacky to start the year, honestly. And college basketball is wackier than the other sport a lot of people pay attention to, but it's been extra wacky, and we are doing fine. We won our clunker and we blew this team out, and it's just a lot of fun. And I think the tickets were cheaper tonight. I think we were talking about that than usual. Get in there, see this team play. I mean, every time I see Ep56 in there, I'm like, man, you're missing a great opportunity, and you're going to look up in 10 years or whenever, hopefully a long time from now, and say, man, those are the glory days. We are in the glory days. Don't let it pass you by.
But by the way, it looks like Kentucky's going to lose in double overtime to Michigan State, unranked. Michigan State.
Kentucky's going down. They're going down.
So you hate to see that. That's rough.
Their losses don't seem to matter quite as much than other teams' losses, but it's always good to get a little chip in the armor on Kentucky. I looked at the recruiting classes because we can talk about recruiting here in a minute, but we lost a recruit today. We got another good one. But Kentucky, man, they had I think they had the number 2, 3, and 4 player in next year's class. It's just insane what they pull up. Duke too has gotten this insane recruiting. I mean, it's just weird. I used to not care that they got all these guys because it was just Kentucky doing Kentucky things, Duke doing Duke things. Of course, that's how it's going to be. But now that we're trying to compete with them, it just feels so demoralizing to look at these lists and be so excited for Johan and Chance and excited for Jabari and excited for Chuma and Isaac Okoro and JT Thor. All these guys are pretty highly ranked. Sharif Cooper. And then you look up the list. I mean, those guys that that we're geeking out about, they have like 4 guys above them in the rankings. It's really incredible.
Well, the encouraging thing is, right, like how many in a row has Auburn beaten Kentucky at home? I mean, 5, 6 in a row, something like that.
Only their coaches could develop like our guys. I mean, you know, ultimately, their coach could motivate like our guy. You know,
you've got to get great players, but I think the thing people forget about basketball, you can only put 5 of them out there at one time, and there's only one ball to shoot. So, like, you can have the best players, and we see it in March. We've seen it with Kentucky all the time. You know, they haven't made a Final Four in a while. They haven't won a title in a while. It doesn't really guarantee anything. Now, it guarantees that you're going to be in the tournament and you're going to have a good team. You're probably going to have a good regular season just because that talent is huge. But, I mean,
Bruce bubbles to the top. The more talented your team is over a longer season, the more likely they're going to come out as being a great team. You don't like St. Peter's may have that great run, but like if you put them in a 30 game season, they're not going to come out over Kentucky.
But you can't tell me. I've watched Kentucky and Cal a lot. They don't play the way Auburn plays.
They don't have the same chemistry. They don't have the same motivation. They don't have the same tenacity. They don't feel like brothers together. It feels like an AAU team a bit.
It's a 1-year rental and go to the league. I mean, and that's what Cal's built, and that's what he recruits to. And they put the most guys in the NBA, which is great. But
it looks like we're playing college basketball, and they're playing a different.
Yes.
Like an all-star situation. Like, you know, I'm sure Kentucky fans would be roasting us if they were listening right now or whatever, but screw them. They're the biggest homers out there. I saw a list, which I just loved. It follows on Twitter. I've been trying to be more active on there. I'm not a huge Twitter guy, so it's tough to I'm not exactly sure, but basically me texting Matt and my friends about our basketball seems to be what people do on Twitter. And I feel weird putting my thoughts out there that often. We have a whole podcast, so listen to all my thoughts on there. But I posted about a list of top 25 coaches. And for years, we've been looking at that list and seeing Bruce Pearl in like the 12 to 15 range or something like that, which is infuriating when we personally know how hard it's been to get Auburn where it is now and how low we were and how insane it is that we're getting these recruits and doing what we're doing on the court. And to see all these other guys at bigger programs that just kind of like fall into it a bit, it feels like. Just was so infuriating, but we saw him, I think, at number 7 or number 8 on this list. Everybody above him had won a national championship, or was pretty sure all of them were. And it felt like, yes, that's what it should be. He should be on that list right below anyone that's won a national championship, and that's it. And no one else should be above him because what he's done at Auburn is just incredible.
I mean, we're going to keep saying it every episode. I don't care. Most wins in the SEC in the last 5 years, including a year where we were on self-probation and Sharif Cooper was held out unnecessarily for most of the year. And I know everybody.
How much longer do we need to wait to figure out to hear what happened to Sharif Cooper? Because there'll be a small minority of that will forever see those 11 games that Sharif Cooper played and be like, man, he might have been the best point guard in Auburn history if he could have played even half a season.
Yeah, so I mean, and this team just keeps building on it. I mean, we have our flaws, and man, I think we're going to be painfully made aware of them at times this year. But man, like the depth and the talent and the culture that you see, this Auburn team's been good enough now that you and I can look at, we know what Auburn basketball looks like. And I think people listening to this podcast have a visual idea now. This is what we do. We have an identity. We're going to play great defense. We're going to play a lot of guys. We're going to play our tails off. We're going to take terrible shots sometimes. And we're going to win a lot of games. Like and we're going to win at home. Like, and what a great identity to have. And it's no shock that a guy like Aiden Holloway, another 4 or 5, he's a 5-star on most services, signed with Auburn soon to be the next point guard in line. So it just kind of keeps building. You're right. It's very difficult with Kentucky and Arkansas getting a lot of dudes. Tennessee's getting dudes. Alabama's always been getting dudes somehow, despite whatever they're doing. But I mean, we're keeping up, and at this point, this staff has proven that they can go up against anybody.
I was about to say that when you mentioned that we've won more games in the SEC than any other team in the last 5 years, and how that is just not out there as much as it should be. And this podcast has been beating that drum every single episode. We have the most wins in the last 5 years. Give us that respect. And we got the rings to show for it too in the SEC, unlike some other teams. And I was thinking, man, maybe I should just start every podcast instead of being like, all right, here's the score. All right, we have won the most games in the last 5 years, and now we'll get to the score. Maybe Ben mentioned he might be redoing the intro a bit for the new players. I think the players in the most recent one of Jabari and Walker, and then he might be trying to redo it a bit with some of the new names. Maybe we get him to put in there the podcast of the team that's won the most games in the last 5 years in the SEC. He could probably get the words better, but that might be a good. Go ahead and get in the intro, or else I'm gonna have to say it.
Y'all know we love to beat a dead horse. That's a good one to beat. You need to tell your friends, tweet about it, get it out there, because you're right. It reminds me of statistics in another sport that we don't talk about on this podcast that the nation has just no idea about. They would think you're lying, if you talked about a record in a big rivalry game, for instance, over the last 40 years. They would just think you're crazy, that you're making stuff up. Same thing here. If you asked college basketball fans all over the country what team has won the most games in the last 5 years, I don't think anybody would know or guess Auburn. I really don't.
We don't feel like we run the narrative a lot. Shout out to this, and we'll get into recruiting right after this little take. We have a new AD, and that AD affects our sport too. New guy named John Cohen at Mississippi State. Congrats to the president to going out and getting a guy that no one knew was available. Feels like we really got a steal there. I really appreciate the attitude of the president to go get him. And then from listening to the press conference, not to get too far ahead of ourselves on press conferences, because we've been burnt by press conferences before, but he had a great point. John Cohen came in. Somebody, I don't know who told him this. Maybe it was Rich McGlynn. Maybe it was somebody else said, people say Auburn being Auburn, and it's a negative thing, Auburn being Auburn. We mess up, we screw up, whatever. But he turned it on its head and said, no, all these great things that people don't talk about enough is Auburn being Auburn. And me and Matt talk about it on the phone all the time. We talk about it on the podcast even. Like, there's so many times we're like, how did we end up like, we're so great. There's no, like, everyone points at us and wants to point at how bad we should be. And we're not. And that's just Auburn being Auburn. The fact that you can point at all these flaws and we just keep succeeding in every sport. And that's Auburn being Auburn. It's something that you can't put your finger on. It's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. That's what John Cohen talked about. If you can find a speech, they have it on a podcast form with Andy Burcham. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Just Auburn being Auburn. I hope there's T-shirts made. I'm sure there already is. We're going to start saying it on this podcast at just Auburn being Auburn. I think it's amazing to turn that on its head. I just wanted to bring that up with the AD because I was really excited by that.
Well, and just, I mean, you go back, getting Bruce Pearl when Auburn did was a great move of like a risk, a bold move in some ways, and kind of a risky move maybe with the timing. It's weird to hire a coach that was still finishing a show cause penalty, but that's how you had to resurrect this program, and you just stumbled upon the best possible fit. I think we can look back now and be like, how many guys in college basketball could have come to Auburn and replicated what's happened in the last 8 years here? I mean, it's not many, I'll tell you that.
Nobody. We can say it, nobody.
So anyway.
All right, we can get in recruiting a little bit here. Yeah. We won a recruit, or however you would say, we got a commitment from Aiden Holloway, point guard, high 4-star. I believe he was definitely top 50, top 30 something, maybe the 30s. Yep. Just the future man, another point guard coming to Auburn. Bruce is just, at this point, he's the point guard whisperer. It's amazing to watch. Wendell still has another 2 years, I believe. Eligibility. He's a junior with a COVID year, right? So he's still got 2 more after this.
I think he could.
Yeah. I don't think. Hopefully, Wendell's the guy we can finally. I've been wanting it for years. I thought Jared was going to be it. I thought McCormick might be it. I thought Sharif might be it. This guy that's too short for the NBA. The game just not going to work for the NBA, and values sticking around and being the big man on a great Auburn basketball team. And Wendell might finally be that guy because he really, really, even more than Sharif, even more than Jared, is not an NBA prospect, as much as he's great in college. So I'm hoping we get all 5 years of him. Hopefully he doesn't feel the need to go play in Turkey before and I think with NIL, hopefully too, that's another reason. Like the one, I have lots of thoughts on NIL, but that hopefully the positive NIL is guys like Wendell will stick around longer instead of trying to take that leap for $60,000 NBA G League contract or whatever. Yeah. But Aiden Holloway is hopefully the next in line to that future. And Trey Donaldson, we're seeing him play well also, but it feels like Aiden is more the basketball guy that you're looking at. It's like, all right, when Wendell's done or whoever, he's going to be a real guy.
Yeah, no, he's another short-ish point guard, a good shooter. I wouldn't say great shooter. He's a really good shooter at the high school level, which, as we can tell, we could use some of those. So, really excited. He signed. He didn't just commit. He signed, which there was some worry. He didn't sign the first day of the period, and it made some people a little nervous. Great to have him sign and on board officially. There's going to be all these scholarships. We don't want to rush this season and look ahead, but every year now in college basketball, right, there's this massive turnover. And fortunately, our staff has done a really good job in the portal and combining that with great high school talent. And Aiden Holloway, a lot of places have him as a 5-star. I mean, he is a legitimate, fantastic high school basketball player. So continue that pipeline. You love to see it. And I would have liked, we missed on a couple big guys. And there's still some uncertainty, some other guys out there. But I think this whole team, a lot of them are eligible to come back. So it's hard for Bruce and them. They don't exactly have like 5 spots to just go offer right now. They probably will after the season.
It's really strange. Recruiting, it used to be, man, you would sign up for message boards, you'd sign up for all this stuff to get that big signing day for either sport. And now, man, it's just the importance isn't there as much. There's still some like jury out on what the strategy is, even like personally, if it was me, it's, take a 5-star, high 4 stars, and that's it. You don't take developmental players anymore. You let the G5 mid-majors develop your players for you and you take them. The weird part is going, especially with COVID year on top of this, with one-time transfer and all that, the only player we theoretically have to lose is Zep Jasper. He's the only guy that's going to run out of eligibility, but he's not going to be the only one. We don't know who's going to leave. Probably 2 guys, maybe more. Last year it was just Devin Cambridge, right? He's the only one that transferred out. So you have no idea what you're going to do with it. At this point, you just kind of take, if you can get, like there was another guy, Bayfall, we were trying to get, they ended up going to Arkansas, which hurts. But if you can get 5 stars, you take as many 5 stars as you can and high 4 stars, and you figure it out afterwards. And it's going to be, so far, we haven't had to deal with the brutality of that there's going to be some other teams. I mean, Arkansas just keeps taking commitments and transfers. Like at some point, they're processing people, and that's just going to be the rude awakening of this one-time transfer rule. And we're going to have to get to that eventually too if we want to compete, as much as it doesn't feel good. Luckily, we haven't had to do that yet. And we'll see. I just can't imagine. I mean, I don't know. We had some people this year stay that I didn't think was going to stay. So I don't envy the job of these coaches trying to figure out who they can recruit, when they can recruit them, what's going to upset people. I was pushing for Yuri Collins in the offseason. He's just amazing. He's really he's leading the nation again 2 years in a row in assists, and we played him last year. And we're gonna play him again this year. I think we're gonna be like, wow, we had to play that guy again, and we wish we could have gotten him. But it's tough. You got Zep and you got Trey coming in. You got Wendell. What are you gonna do? So, but that's the future of college basketball.
Yeah, it speaks to the value of it says a lot about Bruce in this program that we have a full scholarship allocation. I mean, that in this day and age, you had that many people stay. And that's what's led to this depth that is so important for this year's team. I think being able to do that and have a culture that people want to be a part of. So even when your minutes aren't great and even when you wish you could score more, but I like the guys I'm with, I like the coaches I'm with, we're winning, we won the league last year, you start to have this holistic view of college basketball. And I think Auburn is really kind of putting itself in a position to be one of the few schools that can offer an elite college experience of competing at the highest level. You could debate that about the SEC, especially after the tournament last year. But, I mean, great power conference opportunity. You can make tournaments. But people, it's a small town. People love you. You have this, you know what I mean? It's different than the Kentucky experience. It's different than the
You might as well just go straight to G League if you're going to go to Kentucky. The way that's all set up, the way the fans are at that school, the way their stadium is, the way their town is about all this. Yeah, it really feels like you're getting a college experience. I live up in New York City, and there's it's been a big movement in the last 10 years, honestly, with New Yorkers looking down south and looking around the country and saying, I don't want to go to some little liberal arts school in the Northeast. I don't want to go to like Colgate or Fordham or any of these other schools. They're good schools. In fact, if you look at the list, they're probably better academically than a lot of other schools. But they want the college experience. They want to go to the big campus. They want the big alumni base. They want the sports. They want all the. You still get great education, but you get to be in this kind of like summer camp type experience. I tell people up here all the time like that. Like you'll never have that again in your life where you're surrounded by 20,000 plus other smart kids that want to do the same stuff as you and want to, excel the same as you. It's really something you wish you could do it at all points of your life, almost be surrounded by people with the same dreams and the same kind of like attitude, and you can't always get that. And you won't ever get it again in your life. So I think it's a lot of college basketball players see Auburn. You've heard them say it too, but you get to come down, you get to concentrate on basketball and feel like almost like they don't call it a camp atmosphere, but they, you get this atmosphere where you can concentrate on the sport, feel like you're at home, feel like you're in like a bubble a little bit of like college basketball in Auburn. You're not dealing with, at Pittsburgh or any of these like larger city schools that feel like there's other things going on. What is happening is basketball is happening,
Yeah, no, so it's great. It's great to see the continued growth. And look, the way I think players are just, when they visit Auburn and they watch the film on how this team plays, it's a freedom, it's a fun, it's an energy, it's a personality group. Like Bruce really gives them some freedom and lets them go. And it was interesting talking to him about that. Only last couple of things I have. Happy birthday, Sonny Smith. We love you.
Should have said that early on, man. Go listen to that Sonny Smith interview. Happy birthday, Sonny.
We love you, Sonny. We'd love to we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can get him back on this year during the season or after the season. But great to see our guy Jungle VP over there leading the happy birthday at halftime for Sonny Smith. That's pretty cool.
Shout out Michael
Floyd. Thank you.
Yeah. I put some questions out on Instagram. I always do this kind of stuff. I really need to start doing it at the top of the show. I put some questions out on Instagram, like what you guys want to hear from the show, thoughts on this team. We do some shout outs. Maybe we can look at them real quick. We want to get the fans a little more involved, and it sounds like the fans want to be more involved. We don't know how we're going to do that yet. If we want to do live shows or call-ins or listener questions or what. We got a lot of listeners, and sometimes we're like, where are they? We don't hear from them. So please reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter. Let's see if we can get some comments here. Said thoughts about the podcast. Sam Smalley said, have listened to almost every episode. Call-ins in the future? Maybe we do Twitch. Maybe we do YouTube Live. Maybe we do something on Zoom or something. I know there's a couple of other people that do that. I know Auburn Sports does that for the big ones. I believe E2C does it on a almost nightly basis. I think Matt was on E2C. Did that get released?
I was.
Yeah. Was it released?
I think so.
Well, I know he did something with E2C. Matt did. So go check that out. If you can't get enough Matt because you missed Matt in the first 2 games, go check it out. Kyle Kin said, listen to it after every game. We love it, Kyle, man. That's great to hear. That's part of the big thing we want here is we wanted to discuss it anyways. We were going to call each other anyways and talk about this stuff. I'm hoping it feels like an atmosphere of talking about it with your friends, which I know not everyone wants to talk an hour about Auburn basketball with us. So, I hope you guys are in that same kind of boat. Let's see. Caleb, old school, man. Caleb Williams is one of our OG fans. We love Caleb. Caleb's my man. Big shout out for Caleb Williams. He says, I enjoy the longer podcast, hearing y'all hash it out while you think something is interesting. I love that too. I'm a big long podcast guy. We talked about it. I think Matt's growing a little bit on that side.
Well, the numbers
do a short one before, but here's another long one for you.
The numbers show it. I mean, people listen to the long ones. I'm surprised, but I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, and then yes, that's some thoughts there from some comments. I just threw that up like an hour or 2 ago, so maybe we'll get some more coming in from that. Let us know what you think on Instagram and Twitter, and we even have a email if you just can't do the other stuff. I think it's the Jungle Auburn Podcast at gmail.com. Maybe I'll throw that out on Twitter or Instagram or something. But I guess if you're not using that, it doesn't matter. But yeah, check us out on the email too, the Jungle. Also YouTube, we look at YouTube comments too. It's the kind of a backseat for us on YouTube. I like listening to it. I don't feel like we're giving you necessarily great YouTube stuff, but maybe go check out the Toomer's Corner one with Dylan Cargill at Toomer's Corner. That's a good video one. Go check out the draft in Brooklyn live with Coach Burgermaster and Coach Pruitt. That's a good visual one if you're a YouTube guy, but you probably already checked it out if you're on YouTube.
Yeah. Our it's great to see people, one of the things we didn't do a ton in the off season. We have lives and kind of took a break, and it's great to see, a lot of you have jumped back in with us listening right away. I think the deeper rotation is really cool. I think, Ben and Ryan did a great job last week. They're going to be coming on as the season goes on. I think this whole thing is to be a fan podcast and to have reasonably intelligent conversation about this team, not because we're smart, but because we love this program and we pay attention to it like a lot of you do. So yeah, the more interaction we can get, the better. And just so everybody, I know y'all probably know this if you're listening to this podcast an hour in, but next game is Texas Southern Friday night. So another home game before the Cancun, 2 games in Cancun next week over Thanksgiving.
We tried so hard in this Cancun game. You had to take a week off from the Cancun to get back together so we can really, it's not a bye week, but it's kind of like in the other sport where you put a mid-major in between. We got to get ready for that Cancun trip.
And Texas Southern just beat our boy Devin Cambridge and Arizona State recently. And Texas Southern is also a team that ends up in the first 4 of the NCAA tournament a lot. They're in a very small league, but they end up in the tournament a lot. They win their league a lot. So we're going to have to
let us know if you guys are interested in hearing about our old transfer players and NBA players. We might do a little segment maybe at the end of each podcast on that. I mean, we could just tell you briefly that Jabari's playing at the Rockets and Walker's doing really well with blocks per minute at the Utah Jazz. He's probably only playing not a ton of minutes, but when he is playing, he's making a big contribution in blocks, and Utah Jazz fans seem to be happy. Jabari's struggling a little bit shooting. We can't tell if he's getting the ball to him. It seems like their fans are still fine with the development so far from him, but it is surprising that his shooting seems to be what the issue is. So that's something to watch. Sharif's playing G League. JT Thor is playing some for the Hornets. Chuma's starting for the Magic now, which he wasn't always starting.
Well, Paolo's out. Paolo being out opened the door.
Yeah. So I don't know what Chuma's trajectory is right now. I was really hoping he would like the big Chum. He would keep developing. I think he's kind of leveling a little bit right now, but I also don't watch NBA all the time.
Well, and, Chuma hit 1,000 points in the league.
There we go. And that's the dream, just getting in there. And hey, being a starter in the NBA, not every guy is going to be a LeBron James. Isaac Okoro is playing for the Cavs still. He's not starting anymore. I don't know if that's if they see him as the future as much as we were hoping he would develop that shot in the NBA. It doesn't sound like he's really developing that shot. So that's another one. I mean, it's just great to have all these guys in there, though. And now you can kind of look up, and if you have Twitter, follow Jalen Williams' fan account. I don't know what his actual Twitter handle is, but he gives a lot of great NBA updates. Maybe Matt can find it for us real quick, but I think I've retweeted him several times and commented on his stuff. But he does a really great job of reminding people when the Auburn guys are playing in the NBA and how they do once they play.
If you're on Twitter, you know this guy, Shooty Hoops Will. He's one of the OG Auburn basketball guys. Like he's kind of like we've always been in it. He's been in it on Twitter for a long time, and he definitely does a great job keeping up with all the really everything in the Auburn basketball world, but especially the NBA side. And he's another Nashville guy, so shout out.
We love Nashville. We love the Nashville Auburn Club.
We do.
That's a part of it. We're hoping maybe to come down there to the Vanderbilt game, and I'd love watching Auburn playing Vanderbilt. It's a good time.
Yeah, man. Well, any other final thoughts? Good win, 3-0. Undefeated, ranked. We moved up to 13th in the AP poll. We're about 15th in some of the metrics, KenPom. So we're in a really good spot nationally. Here's my question, closing question. Wendell Green, we said he was going to be, I know it's not SEC play, but from where you were at in the offseason, do you feel, on a scale of 1 to 10, how more, I don't know how to phrase this question. What do you think about Wendell?
It all comes down to when we play these elite teams, and we know that, not to get super long-winded about it. Do I feel better or worse in the middle? Do I feel the same? I would say I slightly feel better. I do think he's lost a little weight in the offseason. Some of the drives tonight, I don't think would have went in last year. He looks calmer. It's been a full year now. He's a vet. Like last year, this time, he definitely looks 1,000 times better. Does he look better than he did at the end of last year? I think so, a little bit even. He just things look a little slower, but maybe they'll change when he's playing a bunch of 6'3" guards that are pressuring him and the team can't get a shot off. And we'll see. I would say, if anything, I feel just a tiny bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make you say it. I agree. And we'll see how this team as a whole handles a neutral site game, which will come out next week, and then the road game, the road trip to the Pacific Coast.
I'm gonna miss probably the next 3 games, so I hope you guys don't miss me too much. I think we're gonna do a little handoff here from where it was me and Ryan and Ben, but no Matt, to Matt without me for a couple, maybe 2 or 3 games. I think I'll miss for sure Friday, maybe Monday or Tuesday, maybe the next one again. And it's gonna get crazy with the World Cup. I'm doing some World Cup stuff. I think we play a game at like 3 on Saturday during the World Cup, maybe. I'm a
Sunday.
big World Cup guy. Sunday. It's gonna get a little squirrely. Hopefully, I don't miss that St. Louis one. I'm looking forward to that one. But
you're good on the World Cup with that. So the Auburn St. Louis game is Sunday after Thanksgiving, and it is 2 days after the second group match for the U.S. and 2 days before the third.
I'm definitely gonna miss it. I'm doing, not to get too much in my own personal life, but I am doing a large World Cup world crawl. I am going to all the nation's bars in New York City, and that'll be, I think, at 2 p.m. I'll be at the German bar in Brooklyn. If you live in the New York area, I doubt you do, but if you do, hit me up. We will go get some big steins of beer.
Who's gonna gush about Yuri Collins for an hour? One of us is
will
gonna
rewatch it and gush at the next podcast.
Anyway, well, great win for Auburn. Great to be back on the podcast. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back Friday night, hopefully after another Auburn win against Texas Southern. But keep sharing our stuff. Give us as much feedback as you can. And Jackson, safe travels. Be wise with your decisions. And War Eagle.
War Eagle.